Welcome to the Power to Flourish podcast, where science meets the art of a beautiful life. I'm Dr. Andrea Line, positive psychologist, giftedness expert and coach, and modern-day spiritual godmother to brilliant, deep-feeling women. This isn't just another self-help podcast. It's a sanctuary, a sacred space to come back to yourself. Each week, we'll explore the emotional experience of gifted, sensitive women and what it means to live a life that feels as beautiful as it may look. Because flourishing isn't a luxury, it's your birthright, and your life is waiting. This is the Power to Flourish podcast. Can I ask you something? When was the last time you spent time with someone who made you feel more like yourself? Not more productive, not more impressive or successful, just more like you. I've been thinking about that question a lot this summer, especially this week, because over the past week or so, I've realized I have been reconnecting with women from almost every chapter of my life, and it has been so delightful. Just a few days ago, I was in Massachusetts spending a couple days with girlfriends I met when I first moved to the Berkshires there. I was 29, turning 30. I knew absolutely no one. And one by one, I met these ladies. We were all sort of in a similar season of life, like single women, building our careers in our 20s, early 30s, trying to create community, like, far from where we'd grown up. We didn't really know anyone. And also we had this shared thing in common where we just didn't really click with a lot of the other people that we were meeting, or a little more artsy creative. And, it was just so fun to meet them, especially in that time of my life, because I had moved to a place, again, where I knew no one. Meanwhile, I had this little girl. Audrey was 10, turning 11, and none of the women I knew in my 20s or early 30s had children yet. In fact, most of my girlfriends didn't have children until much later than I did. But they embraced me. They embraced Audrey. They embraced our little Gilmore Girls life up there in New England. And those women became like my family for a season of life. It was really important because honestly, I don't know what I would have done without them. I had not seen some of them or their small children in almost 2 years. I couldn't believe it. I thought I saw them last summer, and I think last year just sort of flew by somehow. So it had been a couple years. The babies were toddlers, the preschoolers were way taller. It was just really fun to see them. And even though the visit was short and there were a lot of kids running around, so you know how it is. It's just not like the days of being single ladies lounging by the pool, but it was just so good to see them. We're in very different chapters of life now, but it filled something in me just being with them again. I didn't even realize how I needed to touch base with the part of me that had connected with them so long ago, if that makes sense. And then, as if, the theme was just continuing, I come back to North Carolina this week. And last night I got together with some of my closest girlfriends here in Winston-Salem. We had dinner. We stayed up late talking and, midweek. And because of all of my travel this summer and just, our busy calendars, we realized I don't think we had been all together in maybe a month and a half. So that was really fun to get together with them last night. And then this weekend, actually, from the time I'm recording this, I will be getting back into my car tomorrow to drive to Virginia Beach, which is where I mostly grew up. It's just a fun girls' weekend with women I have known since high school. We are all on the cusp where we're about to turn 50. Like in the coming year, we will all boom, 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 take turns turning 50. And we have literally been thinking and talking and planning for our 50th for many years. So I'm sure this weekend we will probably try to get all the details together, because the planner in me is like, we still don't have an exact plan. I know that there has been a lot of talk about it, but it is honestly crazy to say out loud that I have known this group of women for almost 40 years. I remember when there was a time in my life where I couldn't even fathom being 40, which is like a funny thing to say. But some of you right now, you're probably in your 20s. I remember being like 20 and just thinking, wow, 40, like it's double your age when you're 20. So it's crazy that I have known them and they have known me for almost 4 decades. A couple of them I met, I just remember we were in 7th grade. I was 12 years old. They have known me since I was 12 years old, a couple of these ladies. They obviously knew me before I could drive, before high school, before college, before I became a mom, before graduate school, before I became a psychologist, before I got married, before all the coaching and the writing and the podcasting, and, obviously before I became a grandmother. They have been there with me through all of those iterations and new seasons and chapters of life. And I don't know, it's just making me reflect because I wanted to prioritize seeing these women this summer because, again, last year was so full of different things with my granddaughter coming into the world that last year somehow, I don't know, I lost. I lost a lot of time. I was still seeing girlfriends, but not all of these groups. So this summer is very full in a really beautiful way. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what I'm noticing and just to encourage you because somewhere in the middle of all of these different reunions, and there were also friends up in Massachusetts, friends that I met later in my living there because I was there for 15 years. So I not only got to see girlfriends that I hadn't seen in a couple of years, but I got to see girlfriends that, I've seen more recently, but they live in Massachusetts and I live in North Carolina. So we don't get to see each other in person all that often. So that was also fun. But the point is, every time it was like, I said to my husband, like last weekend, it was 4 days straight in a row of like boom, 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 reconnecting with all of these different people who I hadn't seen in a while. And it was just like this concentrated reconnection with all these different people. So it was a lot on the one hand, but it was wonderful. And I have just been noticing that every single time I have left one of these, connection times with whether it's one person, whether it's 3 people, whether it's 6 people, I feel lighter. I am laughing more. I feel grounded. I just feel more like myself in all these different ways, even though the list of people I just saw in the last 2 weeks, they're all from different stages of my life. They've all met me at, when I was just going through different things. And I'm still me. You're still you. But in different seasons, you sort of maybe lead with different things. And if you've been on a healing journey at all, like you've shed different things. And so you feel like you're kind of in some ways a different person today than you were, say, 10 years, 15 years, certainly 40 years ago. But certain people help us feel more grounded, right? Like they help us feel lighter. And it just got me wondering, like, why is it? Why do certain people make us feel more like ourselves? I've been reflecting on all of this. And I think we usually think about relationships in terms of what they can give us and of course what we can give them. But, what are those relationships providing? Support, encouragement, companionship, fun, someone to celebrate with, someone we can trust to call when life is falling apart. All of those things matter. All of those things matter for us and being those kinds of friends to other people. But I found myself wondering if certain relationships give us something even deeper. And you do not need to be nearly 50 years old to have this experience. I recognize that, you could be 25 and know this is very true still, right? Because you've got friends from earlier stages of your life. I think that certain relationships help us remember ourselves or parts of ourselves. It's not because I think they're constantly reminding us who we are, but it's because they have witnessed parts of our story that, our everyday life has a way of covering over. We're not thinking about these things all the time. And so I've been thinking about how different people seem to call forth different parts of our personalities. I'm sure you have experienced that. You probably have someone who brings out your very playful side, your goofy side. You probably, hopefully, I hope you have someone in your life who makes you laugh until your stomach hurts. Also, like groups, like the group of women I'm going to see this weekend. I'm laughing just like thinking about it. I know when we get together, I'm going to laugh. I am going to laugh. Now, I can't say that with everyone I get together with because some people I get together with and it's not about the laughing. We're having like deep, meaningful conversations. It's not that it's always deep and meaningful. We can still laugh. But I know for sure that the women I'm going to hang out with this weekend, I'm going to laugh. My stomach is probably going to hurt. We're going to play. We're going to lounge by the pool. We are going to be silly. I'm sure you have someone who reminds you of how adventurous you are. Maybe you have someone who's like always asking the deeper questions, or maybe you are that person for your friends. Someone who remembers the dreams you talked about years ago. It's almost as if these different relationships hold different pieces of who we are. Like they are mirrors, right? They are reflecting back these different aspects of ourselves at different seasons of our life. And, as I was sitting around the table up in Massachusetts, listening to my friends tell stories of like where they are in their life right now. And we're sort of like, I don't know, marking the journey of where we've come. And like our lives are so different. Their lives are very different. I mean, when they met me, I had a little girl. They had no kids. Now they all have little kids. I am a grandmother, empty nester for 10 years. Like our lives are very, not just different from what they used to be when we met, but also different from each other. I don't have a toddler at home. I have a granddaughter who's a toddler. So it's just a fascinating time of life for me. But I'm sitting around the table with these ladies, and even though we don't talk all the time and lots of life has happened in the last year or so, someone can say something and just like who they are or referencing a past experience you've had shared or whatever. And I just could find myself thinking like, oh my goodness, like I'd forgotten. It's not like I forgot about this version of me, but in some ways, like who I am in relationship with them had gotten forgotten, if that makes sense. Not because like I've disappeared. It's just that I'm not thinking about it. I'm just in a different life now. I'm just living my life in this stage. But when I'm with them, I remember she's still there. The girl that was young and exploring Massachusetts for the first time and going out and kayaking around on a pond, like my early days with getting to know these ladies, diving deep into who we are and where we came from and all of our family stuff. It's just lovely to remember those parts of ourselves and being with those women who knew me at that stage makes me feel close again, not just to them, but to me. It just hit me like I am not simply reconnecting with old friends. I'm reconnecting with this younger and different version of myself and different versions of myself throughout my friendship with them. It's not just like the one single different version of myself. And there's something very lovely and integrating about that. Even if we're not sitting around just talking about the past, which we weren't. We were talking very much about life today, but just being in their presence brought me back. And I just want to be clear that I don't think this is about me wishing like I could go backward. And this is not about like nostalgia. I don't want to be 29 necessarily. I don't know, 29 wasn't too bad. I certainly don't want to relive middle school. I'm not trying to be in college again. Like, I'm not actually longing for an earlier version of myself. And I don't think you are either. But I do think that there is something special and beautiful about recognizing that every season of our lives leaves us with something worth carrying forward and integrating into our current life. The curiosity, the creativity, right? The courage I had to move from the South where it was all I knew. My family was there. The culture I knew was there. And I have this daughter and we're going to move up to some little town in New England that it's just, I look back at that person and I'm like, oh my gosh, what courage I had. Like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Like the courage we had, the dreams we once had, the dreams, like these girlfriends that I saw in Massachusetts recently, like the dreams they had of having children one day and the journeys and the heartaches and the things that, my friends have had to walk through and that I've had to walk through and that we have shared in life together. The joy that we have gotten to share. Those different parts of us never disappear. Sometimes they just get buried underneath, all the daily responsibilities and the years of life that can just like pile up, but they're always there. And so I wanted to just leave you with this thought and encouragement today that maybe flourishing is not at all about becoming someone completely new. Maybe sometimes you have that thought like you need to be like a new shiny person, but maybe it is about gathering up all the best parts of who we've always been and bringing them into the life we are living today. And I think that this is one of the greatest challenges of, I'll say midlife specifically, although you could very well be younger and be struggling with as well. But I do think that after we have spent a few decades being and becoming so many wonderful things, maybe it's a wife, maybe it's a mother, a professional, a leader, a caregiver, maybe a business owner, whatever it may look like for you. All of those roles and all of those seasons are beautiful and none of them are the problem. But sometimes the roles can become so loud and demanding that it's harder to hear ourselves underneath them. I do think many of us in midlife recognize how long we have lived this way. And so one of the things that a lot of women I hear, kind of can think this and say this to them is like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Or I'm trying to figure it out. And I really don't think most women are actually trying to become someone completely different. What they're longing for is they're trying to reconnect with someone they've always been that they've lost somewhere along the way. The woman who laughed more easily, who loved to create, who dreamed really big dreams, who felt deeply alive. She is still there, but she's probably been carrying a lot. So here's just a final thought I've been thinking about and sitting with this week. Maybe healing and growing isn't just an inside job. In fact, I know it's not an inside job. I think that sometimes the healing, when I say healing, I also mean like the integration, because I think it all comes together. It happens when someone else remembers us before we even remember ourselves. There's something incredibly grounding about being with people who have witnessed your life over decades, or if you're younger, maybe, over several years. Not the people who've just watched it on social media from afar. They've witnessed it. They know you and knew you before your resume and your accomplishments, before having your family and juggling everyone's expectations and needs. They've seen your whole story. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to perform. Hopefully with these people, you do not have to prove anything. You just get to be. And I think that's one of the reasons I left all of these gatherings feeling so refreshed. I always feel refreshed when I'm with my friends. Like I can just be me, right? It's not just because we laughed or we ate good food or my friend has this really, oh my God, I want to share the link in the show notes. She showed me this manual, like non-electric espresso maker. It was so cool. So now I feel like I need to get it. But it's not because she made me a really tasty ice latte. It's not even because we were reminiscing about the past. It was really because this deeper thing was happening, which was I was remembering myself in this very particular way within the context of these particular relationships. So here's a question I'd love to leave you with today. Who helps you remember yourself? Not who admires you or who needs you or who benefits from you, but who helps you remember who you are? Maybe it's someone you've known for 30 years or 5 years or 10 years. Maybe it's a college roommate. our friend from grad school. Maybe it's someone from church. Maybe it's a friend you've been meaning to call for months, but life has been busy. I want to encourage you to reach out, not because like you should put it on the checklist, not that way, but because I know and you know relationships like that are a very big part of how we flourish. It's huge. As I drove home from Massachusetts this past weekend, and again after I had dinner and stayed up late last night in my living room with my girlfriends drinking decaf coffee, I just found myself thanking God for all of these women. They're all very different, very different. And each one has met me. They have known a different version of me, but they have all laughed with me. They have encouraged me. They've celebrated me. They have prayed for me. They've walked beside me through seasons of immense joy and seasons of incredible heartbreak and pain. And what struck me is just like what an incredible gift it is to have people in your life who don't just know who you are today. They know your story. They've witnessed your becoming, the witness. And maybe that is one of the greatest gifts relationships can give us. Not that they necessarily change who we are, but that they gently help us remember who we've been all along. That is an incredible gift. So I wanted to just share some of those reflections, what's going on in my life in this busy, busy summer of mine. I'm not complaining because it's all good stuff and full of fun, but honestly, it is a full summer. I hope that you are having a great summer. And as always, I will see you same time, same place next week. In the meantime, if you are curious, if you want to check out any of my resources, I have some of those links in the show notes. You can take a quiz if you haven't already about Am I a Gifted Woman in Hiding? And you can also access some free resources there. You can also join the Sanctuary Letters, which is my weekly email that goes out. I would love to invite you and have you come into that community. You'll stay up to date on the latest little things in my life and what I have coming up in terms of ways to help and support you. So I encourage you to check those out. And I haven't mentioned this in a while, but there is this little link in the show notes where you can send me a message. It's like a text message. I won't know who it's from unless you say who it's from. I'll just get the message, but it's really fun. Help a girl out. Tell me what you like. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, send me a little message and just tell me what is it that is resonating you. Or even better, send me a review. Ideally, if you think this is a 5-star review that you could give me, please do. And tell me what you like in that, because every review, I'm sure you've heard lots of podcasts ask for these reviews, but they help the algorithm, of course. And so the more reviews I get, then the more that this podcast has the chance of reaching other women, other gifted women just like you, who probably they might not even know they're gifted. So I'd love for this message and this information to spread. And I do want to hear what you would love to hear me talk about. I take all of the ideas and use them as I plan these out. And I will be planning out the next round, like to round out the summer into the fall. So I've already begun that process. I'd love to hear what you want to hear me speak about. And if there's anything through the lens of being a gifted woman specifically, there's a lot that I haven't talked about yet. Anyway, check out the show notes, check out those links, join the Sanctuary Letters. And until next week, my friend, keep flourishing. Thank you for listening to the Power to Flourish podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling more seen, more supported, and more deeply connected to yourself. And if this episode resonated, would you take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend? It's one of the best ways to help this work reach the women who need it most. You'll find show notes, links, and resources from today's episode at powertoflourish.com. And now just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not therapy, medical advice, or a substitute for professional support. And listening doesn't make me your therapist or doctor, though if you're looking for a coach, you know where to find me. All right, beautiful one, that's it for now. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your gifts, and keep flourishing.